is Lee Hill. He is a vice president of Iowa Outdoor Unlimited, and I think he's going to give you a good glimpse in the outdoors.
Thank you. Well, I want to share with you tonight my favorite place on earth, which is Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado. Last summer, I took a group of 4 people on a week-long backpacking trip here, and there's something definitely awe-inspiring about going deep into the mountains and spending a whole week in the wilderness. The starry sky was so awesome this night that a couple of us actually dragged our sleeping bags out of our tents. And this is a picture I took of the moon about 5 a.m. when I woke up. This is what I saw. Stop and think, what's the last time that you saw a totally dark sky with no streetlights? When you stop and think about it, for tens of thousands of years, that's what our ancestors saw every night of their entire lives. But we don't experience this anymore. This is the campsite we had near Cascade Falls. Backpacking is truly back to the basics. You have to bring your shelter, your food, your clothing, all your basic essentials with you. Now I'm cheating a little bit. I didn't take this on the backpacking trip last June. I was so hooked I went back in September. But this was a moose I saw about 30 feet away from me, just munching away. And it's just one of the last places where you get this kind of undisturbed habitat, and that's why it's so special to me to be able to go places like this. I feel bad because I'm watching all those people do this without notes. I can't do this without notes. And when we came down from the campsite you saw earlier, one of the people in our group, Carrie, thought she heard us following her down the trail. She turned around, looked over her shoulder. 20 feet away, one of the moose, like the one you just saw, just walked right past her like she wasn't even there. Another one of the basics, of course, is our food. And we took camp stoves, backpacking camp stoves, about 4 pounds of fuel, which fed us, boiled all our water, and cooked all our food for a whole week for 4 people. And I love to eat well, so I brought stuff dehydrated, the same stuff I would have eaten at home. All of our water we got out of streams. We were never very far from a stream most of the week. And it's one of the things that's just really special to me about backpacking. I went on my first backpacking trip when I was 12. The funny thing is, I've always appreciated the taste of clean water ever since. You just appreciate things that you don't otherwise. This is me, Amanda, and Carrie on our way, rounding the bend on the way to a couple lakes, Lake Nanita and Lake Nakoni. On the day trips, I've realized after I put this presentation together, there's no picture of us with our backpacks on. But our day trips, we left all that gear at the tents and just tried to travel light. This is Lake Nanita, the second of the 2 lakes that we saw on one of our day trips. And words just escape me. The Ptarmigan Peak has 4 different spires. That's what you see off at the right. There were trout a few feet from the shoreline. Just amazing. This is a map. On the very next to last day, we went all the way up the Continental Divide. And we had been camping and hiking up the valley. And then to get to the Continental Divide, fortunately from the west, it was, after some switchbacks, it was really pretty flat, but you could see on the east side how steep the gorges were. I was expecting and came fully prepared to see snow covering all of those switchbacks based on all the reports from the rangers. I had spikes for my boots, I had trekking poles, and was encouraging everybody else to do this. We lucked out because June was so warm, we only had that one thin stretch of snow on the switchbacks. But this is called post-holing. In the morning, there's a thin glaze of ice covering that snow, so it's a lot more dangerous. You can slide hundreds and hundreds of feet till you hit rock. But when it's soft in the afternoon, you can walk along the surface and suddenly sink in up to your thigh like Jared did here. And after we crossed the switchbacks on our way to the divide, there's a couple, we had about half a dozen elk crossed our path just about 30, 40 feet away. You might not know this, there were thousands of elk, even larger than this in Iowa, 150, 200 years ago, all extinct today. And that's one of the reasons places like the wilderness are so special to me, is that we leave a few places for those animals. This is Taylor's Peak. I want to go back and climb that peak sometime. As I was saying, the western approach that we took was very shallow. On the other side, it looks like the Prudential Rock, 1,000 feet start drop off. And this is the view when we got to the top of Flat Top Mountain, about 13,000 feet, or excuse me, about 12,000 feet. That lake you see is about 1,000 feet below, just breathtaking. There's some places in the world you just cannot see when you drive a car, and if you're not willing to leave the roads like this. This is from the view from the other side of Flat Top Mountain. This is Tyndall Glacier, and don't let distances conceive you, that thing is huge. Hallett Peak, and what you see there is what looks like a gutter, a rain gutter that was carved out when Tyndall Glacier filled that whole gorge tens of thousands of years ago. This is a view of how quickly the weather can change at that kind of altitude. The clouds suddenly can be pushed up 1,000 feet, and they get so much colder that what looks like white, fluffy, friendly clouds can suddenly turn into a storm quickly. And we lucked out on this day when we went to the Continental Divide. We had a lot of high winds, but we didn't have too much rain until we got back to our campsite. This is one of the few places that we ventured off the main trail. This is Ptarmigan Basin. Has 3 lakes fed from all the snow on the winter on those slopes. Feeds into this one lake, Bench Lake, and this we had to climb some pretty steep slopes to get to. I went back solo just before we left because Bench Lake then spills over, and for half a mile it drops almost 1,000 feet. It's one continuous waterfall. I hiked my way up this. Just one more beautiful example of things that you'll only see if you're willing to leave the roads and electricity behind.